There we go.
There we go. Now we got the perfect setup. There we go.
All right. All right. So, Briony, like I said, thank you very much for coming on. We're very excited. First time ever we've had a local artist on, so we're super stoked about that. Before we get into any of the questions and how your relation with the PWHL, for our viewers and our listeners out there who might not know you, give us a little background on who is Briony Douglas.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you for pronouncing my name right. I've been in Woodstock for the last 20 years. I'm an artist. I've been professionally creating art for the last 10 years as well. I started as a photographer. I've been very lucky to photograph some of the biggest names in the world, like Oprah, Jennifer Lawrence, Zac Efron, which was pretty neat. And then I started building giant sculptures about 5 or 6 years ago. So you can kind of see that's a to scale Formula One car behind us, made completely out of nails. But yeah, I just kind of make big things. It's pretty fun.
So you gotta have a pretty big space for something like that, though, right? Like a up to scale Formula One.
Yeah. It's very big. And my fiance finagled a car lift. Like he doesn't know how to lift on cars, but like, apparently it's working for the Formula One car, so that's good.
There you go.
You just, I mean, Briony, you just mentioned that, like, you know, you just had a Formula One car that we see in the back, and you just mentioned the material used was just made out of nails. For as an artist, like, what goes in, like, what type of products do you tend to use, or like, basically, what do you decide fits best in order to create the projects of arts in terms of like everyday objects?
So for me, a lot of the time, I try to find beauty or repurpose in things that people would often dispose of, and I think a lot of that comes to just wanting, like there's a lot of times. So the car's made out of 50,000 nails, but it's a whole bunch of nails to make one. So a lot of my work comes from a whole bunch of things coming together to make a community, and that's kind of an underlying theme throughout all of my artwork.
Okay, so
honestly, half the time I don't know what I'm doing when I say it. Like for what we're about to talk about, I had never got one of those before, so I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to get into too much detail. Obviously, the unveiling is this coming week, so unfortunately neither one of us will be able to make it. I'm in London, he's in Toronto, but it's obviously, you know, but we would love to be there, but so we won't get into too much of the unveiling. But how do you go from local artists, obviously, you know, photographing celebrities, to now you're intertwined with the hockey world and finding yourself on the Sticks and the Six podcast?
Well, I mean, I've played sports and been into sports since I was little. I think as a woman, I've really pushed myself to be even more so in the sports world, as well as the automotive world, because growing up, I didn't get to see a lot of that. And we always want to see ourselves represented. So that's definitely why. And I'm just not very good at taking no for an answer. So I just kind of persevered in all these lanes. And yeah, it's been pretty fabulous. I mean, some of my first memories was being told to keep it down because hockey's on. So that's kind of comes naturally.
So basically when you reached out to us in the email and with the unveiling as well, it's the art that you're using is repurposed sticks from, you know, the PWHL. I'm just curious, how did you come in contact with the PWHL to create this artwork and get involved in sort of like the history or the momentum that is being created with this league, considering that the inaugural season just finished, we're heading into season 2, and it just seems like the momentum keeps going. So I'm just curious, how did the interaction happen with the PWHL to create this artwork?
Yeah, so actually Royale reached out to me, and they're one of the main sponsors. Honestly, I'm very lucky. I get to work with a lot of branded companies to be able to support my art. They have been such a breath of fresh air, because typically when someone asks you to make something, I was like, am I making something out of toilet paper? So like they really were all about embodying the sport, empowering the women, and making their story first, and then also bringing it to life by their support. So that's how I originally got involved. Yeah, it's very cool. I can't wait for you to see.
What is it about? I mean, we were saying before you came on here, Peter and I, we've kind of been pushing this women's hockey game since we started this podcast about 5 years ago, we've been pushing the leagues that were around. Now it's the PWHL. There's a lot of momentum, as Peter mentioned. What does it mean for somebody like yourself to be involved in the growth of the game and the growth of this momentum that this league seems to continue to build?
I mean, it feels like I'm a part of history at this moment. Like, it's, as a woman, there's been so many times that, like, and I don't want to speak on behalf of everyone in the league too. Like, you want to just be lined up against humans and then being told you're great because you're great at what you do, not because you're great because you're a woman. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we're getting there. So, like, it's amazing that the women's hockey league is doing great. But I feel like hopefully that this is the next step, is like just recognizing them as athletes. And that's like kind of I always say artwork, it's not meant to like beat you over the head. It's a beginning of a conversation. And that's what's awesome about art. So like, you can take away from that piece and discuss what you will. And someone might have a completely different feeling than what someone else does. But what's cool is you're talking about it.
Sorry, Peter, I got to follow up. What kind of got you into art in the first place? I mean, we're diving into this idea of you as an artist and the PWHL and this car in the background here, but what kind of got you to that point where it's like, this is what I want to do for a living?
I had done art since I was a child. Some of my earliest memories was doing stop motion with my dad and melting Play-Doh in the microwave. So like, I've always loved it. It's brought me so much joy. My grade 12 art teacher was not the nicest lady. So I was like, maybe I won't do art for a living. Took many different paths, but they all built me up to where I am today. So now I just make art. It's pretty cool. And we have like a full team. Like today, there was about 10 people in here working now, and they're all often artists that are looking for some extra money. And then they're coming in and like, we're doing like a holiday window installation. So it's literally like Santa's workshop. So it's pretty neat.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. You mentioned that you grew up with sports, with, hockey, racing, and everything like that, as we can see with the car in the background as well. But what is your fondest sport memory that you remember, or something, or one memory that just stands out, be it with Formula One racing, with hockey, or anything like that?
I mean, it probably is hockey. Like I've played all sports. I'm into pretty much all sports. But like hanging out with my stepdad as a child, watching the game, like that was, and I've been very lucky now to meet some of the Leafs players and know some of them. And when I tell him that is just like, I've met a god. Like it's so cool because it's just some of my favorite memories with him.
It's crazy because like even now, like Peter and I go to the NHL Combine in Buffalo every year, and sometimes we're interviewing guys like half our age, and it's like we are meeting gods, and you try not to fanboy a little bit, right? So it's definitely an interesting moment. This piece that you're going to be unveiling on Monday, I believe, Monday the 25th. It's obviously we know it's made of some sticks. Without giving it away, can you give us any more to what to expect from this?
Yes. So what we did was, and I can talk to this without saying what it is, but we have 127 from the 6 inaugural teams. So they gave us their upcycled sticks that they had used. But what was to make a giant sculpture? I'm not going to say what it is, but it was just so cool because it's different than us going out and buying 127 sticks. First of all, that would be extremely expensive. They're so fancy. I had no idea. But what was really cool about it is every single stick had one of the women's names on the side of it. So every stick that is put onto this piece is representing one of the players, like actually. And that I think is just so meaningful. I mean, like I saw Sarah Nurse and Spooner last week, and I wanted to run up and be like, I know you guys. Like I feel so close to them. Like we follow each other on Instagram, but I just feel like I'm friends with them now. There were so many of their sticks that I used to create this piece. And it's just so special. Even the way that like all the sticks are wrapped differently at the top. Like people are doing different creative things, and like it's just really cool. It made it even more special because it's literally from their hands.
What's it like to have those interactions with the players themselves that you are going to be recreating or using their equipment or sticks as part of this piece? Like even with just the PWHL itself too, what interactions have you had with them in this process?
So they don't know what the piece is.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at a Toronto Life party last week because I was on the list for people to watch, and they were named top of the list. So it was really hard not to be like, look what I built. But it's surreal, and I don't get starstruck easily. Like, I've met a lot of really cool people, but there is something about them and the empowerment that they're doing that's just, it just feels so different. And there's just so many young women and kids that are just like looking up to this right now. They're like, hey, I could actually do that, which is so cool. So yeah, it's awesome to meet them.
Now, this piece is going to be unveiled at the Eaton Center. What's the eventual goal for where this is going to kind of be? I want to say its spot, its landing spot.
So they haven't quite landed on it yet. I mean, my dream would be outside the Hockey Hall of Fame or in some capacity there. I just remember as a kid coming to Toronto being like, this is the coolest thing ever. And like having a piece there would be a dream come true. So fingers crossed, that's hopefully where it lands, but we're not sure yet. TBD.
Briony, I just want to just go off on I had a question in my mind and I completely forgot it. I am so sorry. It's one of those moments where so many things are going in my head. I was going to have a follow-up, but Andrew, I'm going to throw to you until I can remember it.
I think, Peter, this might follow up with one of your questions that you had, but one of the things I know you were looking to ask was, the support from the league. What kind of support did you get from the PWHL in terms of like, was there guidelines to the structure you built? Was there an expectation? Or did they just kind of give you the reins and say like, you're the artist here. What do you want to do with it?
Honestly, so when I put the sketch together, it was Royale that was making the decision, but it had to be approved by PWHL. And there was no feedback. So they liked it from the get-go. And which I think is a good thing. So they just honestly, like everyone that's been involved, especially Royale, just seems to be so much about doing things to empowering this league and empowering these women. So like it's pretty neat.
So I'm
going to the first game on next Saturday, and I'm really excited.
There you go.
Yeah.
Excellent. I just remember my question right now, so that's perfect. Obviously, with this piece, it's not the first sport one that you've done, as we've seen in back as well. But is this one where that you hope that more traction gets to do more sport related pieces in the future for this league overall and to try and promote it even more?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love to be doing more, especially in this world and just in sports in general. We were down in New York meeting with the NHL office down there a few weeks ago as well, have you been there?
Not to that main office, no.
It's very cool. You guys should go. I also they took a while to read us around and showing us all the spelling mistakes on the Stanley Cup, which I didn't know about. Did you know that?
No.
Okay,
I kind of had a feeling that at some point there would be a few spelling mistakes on there.
No, there's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like you need, I don't know if it's available, but they were telling me like there's just one family that's been doing it out of Montreal, I think, for so long.
For years, yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. It was really neat. Yeah, like especially PWHL, I would love to do more in. I love that we have the WNBA here now as well. So like just very much about empowering women.
So if there was one thing, obviously you mentioned art is, up to interpretation. People take different things away from it. But if there was one thing that you hope that people can take away from this piece that will be unveiled on Monday, what would that be?
Oh God, that's a very deep question. It's kind of just to spark the no. The one thing would be the piece was really hard to build and the sticks were really hard to cut and drill into and do a lot of the things. And I think I would love people to walk away and see that as a representation of how hard these women have worked to get to where they are today. And that is probably the main thing I would hope people would take away.
Beautiful. That gave me chills, honestly. Like I'm sitting here in my bed, it gave me chills.
True though, yeah.
That's honestly, that's all I have, Briony. I do want to say when I mentioned to my wife that I was coming on with you and that we had you on as a guest, I think she was shell shocked because she follows some connected followers to you on Instagram, so she knew exactly who you were, and so it was very nice to get you on, and like I said off the top, first time ever on Sticks in the Six podcast that we've had an artist, a photographer, somebody that's involved in pop culture a little bit more differently than we are here at the Sticks in the Six podcast. So we do appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we can get down and see that piece, hopefully at the Hockey Hall of Fame at some point.
Oh, this has been so awesome. Thank you for having me on. Also, please tell your wife I said hi. That's really sweet.
I absolutely will. Thank you very much.
We appreciate the time, Briony. Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.